Hey, I'm Serenity and this is my kitchen, and welcome back to another vintage style heart cake video. Today we are making one of my Zodiac cake. I'm doing this series for every sign during their season. I'm making a cake inspired by it. However, I missed Cancer's cake because I was very busy in July. But we're doing it together today, especially because I'm going to teach you a cool technique of how to make sparkly glitter chocolates. So here is our very sparkly Cancer cake. Oh my god, it's falling off the board.
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Let's not. I'm going to be very careful because she's falling apart. We're going to put her down. She is falling off the board, so she's going to have to sit down, okay? It's mainly because I used a cannoli filling, and it does not stick to cake like it was advertised as a cannoli cake recipe. Anyways, so let's get into it. We're going to start by crumb coating and stacking our cake layers. I'm using chocolate chip cake layers with this cannoli filling, which is going to be the death of me. I thought this was a pretty thin layer, but it wasn't stable, so it was slipping and sliding. I really should have used it more as just a filling and used my Russian buttercream to create a dam, and this was only the filling, but I was really going for an authentic cannoli flavor, which this did give. It just didn't give structure. So I also used this chocolate chip filling for my first crumb coat. Then I'm going in with my teal color to do my top coat. And it isn't even, and it's gonna crack mostly because those chocolate chips are sticking out at places. I probably could have used a lot thicker coat of this, and it was kind of hard to smooth over those chocolate chips. Usually I like a thick layer, and for some reason today I didn't do a thick layer on this one, but that is what we're doing. And I'm gonna plop this into the freezer to set for at least 5 minutes before I go in with a hot bench scraper to get a nice smooth top coat, final coat. To make my scraper hot, I used either a hot glass of water and then put my scraper in there so it warms up, or I place it directly into fire on the stove till it's nice and hot so I get smoother sides before we start piping. And I'm doing this a couple times so I get it nice and smooth. As you can see, I did it so much that I started to see some of the chocolate chips. And I'm just using my largest offset spatula that is hot too to scrape the top of the cake to get a nice even surface, because we will be putting chocolate letters on this portion too. Once our cake has chilled in the freezer again for a bit, it's time to start the vintage piping, starting with this 150 kind of ruffle tip. Now, I did not like how this was going. I scraped it off about 3 times before I liked it, but I'm just doing an up and down motion halfway off the edge of the cake. That way it can peek through our other ruffles. And I'm going to repeat that on the bottom of the cake, about half an inch away from the actual cake. That way you can see the ruffles through the piping we're going to do next. From here, we're going to go in with my favorite tip, which is the 6B tip, and I'm going to create a border shell. Now for me, I like to do my cakes where the border goes in one direction, as you can see here, instead of just going all the way around kind of like a circle. So I'll do where the piping goes down towards the point of the cake. And I like to do a medium-sized shell with this. Next, we're going to start the actual vintage swoop piping on the sides of the cake, and I'm using a 70 ruffle tip, and you're literally just pulling and then pushing back onto itself to create this effect of a ribbon ruffle, creating half circle shapes all the way around. Usually I end up with about 6 to 8 of these all around the cake. This next tip I got in a cake kit, so I don't know what it is. It's just a mini version of that bigger ruffle tip, but for this one I'm creating more of a long pull and then going back on top of itself to create this smaller ribbon effect, and that's going on top of our large shells on the bottom. For our swoops, I'm going to go in with a 3 Wilton tip and just creating these tiny little dots in white all the way around the cake on top of our ruffles. This is a really simple technique to do. You don't actually need a piping tip for this, but it creates a great effect and it looks really nice. And I like that it adds a subtle dimension. It also kind of reminds me of like pearl on a string sort of effect. Next, with a 21 shell tip, it is the smaller version of the big shell tip we used on the top and bottom. This is going to be our final row of swoops for the cake. Now, as you can see, I'm not connecting any of these. I just find it easier not to, because sometimes I get a little lopsided. Finally, I'm going to use a even smaller version of the shell tips, which is a 16 from Hobby Lobby, and doing a border all the way around the cake in the opposite direction that we did the shell. So the shells obviously were going north to south, and from this I'm doing south to north, so tip to the center of the heart. And finally, I'm going in with that shell tip that we used at the beginning to connect all of our swoops together. This is where I got a little crazy. We are going to go in with the pearl edible sprinkles. So at the end of each of those shells, I'm using these really large pearl silver sprinkles and putting one on the center center. And finally, for our last piping, we're using a 32 Wilton tip on the top to do the inner border on the top of the cake. This is a larger shell than the one we used on the sides. And it's just to merge the colors on this cake together. So for every single one of my cakes, I have a very distinct color story. So for Cancers, their birthstone is pearl, hence the white. Their color is a seafoam green for the ocean. And then their metal is silver, so all the silver elements for that. So now you can kind of hopefully see my vision for this cake and the color story I was going for. Now I'm gonna go in with these chocolates I made, and they're just white chocolates I made in molds, the shells to represent Cancer and their connection to the ocean and the moon. And basically what I did to make them silver glitter is I brushed them with edible glue and then dipped them in edible glitter and then froze them for 20 minutes until it adhered really well. It's just like you would use glue on construction paper with glitter to make it stick, except we're using edible elements. Then I got crazy with the sprinkles because I wasn't really liking this cake at all. It was lopsided from the filling. It was cracking. So I did the one thing I know will make me feel better, and that is filling every little piece of it with sprinkles in every little crevice to make it shine and sparkly and pretty. And you know what? It worked. But anyways, here is the completed cake. For me not really liking her, I think she came out cute when I added all those sprinkles. That is our Cancer cake for the Zodiac season. I will see you in a couple weeks with the Leo cake with a fun technique I am excited for that one. This is our Cancer cake, but she is sliding off the board. I'm gonna cut her in a minute. Note to self, do not use that cannoli filling again. As you could see kind of in the video, the cake was kind of cracking, mostly due to that filling. It was not very stable, but it's okay. I like to do these videos where I show you my mistakes, because if someone who has a lot of experience like myself can mess up, a beginner who may have never made a cake before can feel like it's okay. As always, as a palette cleanser, the doggo picture today is going to be this picture of Scarlet. Look, she's so cute. None of my dogs are Cancers, so all my socials are linked down below. If you want to follow me, go ahead. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, especially if you like these cake videos. I do about one of them a month, full length, like a full length video like this, but I post multiple of them on shorts every single month. If you want to name my buttercream recipe, I have a video I can link here, a whole playlist, along with my start to finish process of making these cakes. Yeah, that's all I have for you. Love you, mean it, kisses, don't do things stupid, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way.